So you want to study something with languages but don't really know what there is to study or what career to do after, what to go to school for, then you clicked on the right video. Language teaching and language learning are not the exact same thing, right? What I advise you to, if you want to be a teacher, go into a program that teaches you pedagogy. Studying Japanese is not going to make you the best Japanese teacher. I'm Michi. I'm a fourth-year PhD student at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about the different programs you can go into if you like languages, if you like learning languages, and if you like learning about how to learn a language. Okay, so I have 6 different programs for you, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about each discipline that I picked out, and then I'm going to tell you what you're likely to find in a program like that, but make sure that if you're interested in it to look for programs of all of those, because you can probably do the same kind of study in all of those programs. So let's get started. Number 1 is studying linguistics. If there's a program at the school you want to go to called linguistics, then that's a program where you're going to learn about the grammar of different languages, you're going to analyze sounds, you're going to analyze vocabulary, you're going to analyze syntax. If that means anything to you, you're just going to analyze lots of stuff that make up a language. That's usually what linguistics is. And then you can have a look at it from a contemporary viewpoint, but also from a historical, diachronic viewpoint, where you're going to compare what languages are like now and what they used to be like before, and maybe how they split off into different languages, things like that. That's historical linguistics. Then there's also comparative linguistics, where you compare 2 different languages or 3 different languages, and you look at what exactly is different, what is the same, and those studies can be good for if you want to be a teacher, for example, and you want to look at what would be hard for a student to learn. That's called comparative linguistics. Also within the field of linguistics, and that's also what the linguistics department at the University of Hawaii at Manoa does, is they document many languages, lesser known languages. So if you know any language on an island that's really small and no one has really written it down yet, or no one has written a grammar book for it yet, then that's maybe what you want to do. That's called language documentation. And there's something related that's called language revitalization. So if you know a language that's in the process of dying out because it's losing speakers, you would be studying language revitalization to work on writing grammars, writing down a dictionary for that language, to be brought to other generations to revitalize the language. And then what can be also found in linguistics departments is usually something like social linguistics, where you look at what's the social impact of languages, of speaking a certain language. You'll be looking at something like language and power. You're going to be looking at how powerful speaking one language makes you versus speaking another language. All socially related things for linguistics. And then there's something called psycholinguistics. And that's not always part of, or none of these are always part of departments, but there's something that's maybe a little bit smaller, but it's called psycholinguistics, and that's where you experimentally look at language, language learning, language speaking, all of those things, and you try to figure out how do people behave while they're speaking? What can that tell us about what's going on within someone? Does speaking a language have any impacts on you as a person? What are universal behaviors while speaking a language, while learning a language, all of that. So anything that has to do with psychological parts of speaking a language. And I think that's usually the most common parts of linguistics. If you're not entirely sure if what you're interested in is also part of your department, make sure to look at your department website, look at the professors and grad students that are listed, and see if what they publish is anything close to what you're doing. And it's likely that it is. You can probably do the same kind of study in all of those programs. But if not, you can also have a look at this second type of program. It's called applied linguistics. And I think this is also one of the most common ones. The difference between a linguistics program and an applied linguistics program is, as the name says, that it's applied, which means that you'll be taking all knowledge that you have about a language's grammar, about a language's structure, into a context. So you're gonna look at language in a place, language in a classroom, language on the internet, just anywhere where you can see language being used. And usually applied applied linguistics is also socially critical. Like I said with social linguistics before, social linguistics can also be a type of applied linguistics, and applied linguistics is also usually a program where you'll find professors working on teaching related and language testing related topics. So if you're interested in anything like that, making tests for language placement tests, or teaching methods, that can all be in an applied linguistics program. However, there's also language teaching programs, and those can be called language teaching. They can also be called something like TESOL. I don't know if you've seen that before, but that stands for Teaching English as a Second Language. There's also Teaching German as a Second Language, Teaching German as a First Language, Teaching English as a First Language, teaching any language you can think of as a second or as a first language, and those are really specific programs. Those programs also usually include some kind of pedagogy, which is really important because that's what you want to be doing, right? You're going to be using pedagogy to teach someone a language if you want to go into language teaching. What I advise you to, if you want to be a teacher, if you really know you want to be a teacher, use a program like this. Go into a program that teaches you pedagogy. Because just because you learned the language does not mean you're going to be good at teaching it to others, or not necessarily mean that you're going to be good at teaching it to others. And just because you speak a language, you're a native speaker of a language, and are just interested in the grammar, still doesn't necessarily mean that you're good at teaching it. So if you want to be a language teacher, go into a TESOL program, go into any kind of language teaching program that has a focus on pedagogy. And yeah, again, if you're not sure if your program that you want to do has that, make sure to ask about it. Make sure to look into professors' recent publications to find out. Now, this might be a little funny to think about at first, but language teaching and language learning are not the exact same thing, right? If you study language teaching, it's mostly about pedagogy, about getting people to learn. Whereas language learning is another program that you can go into. A language learning program, or language acquisition is what it's usually called. In language acquisition, or in the field of language acquisition, all you do is focus on how do learners acquire a language. This is very close to psycholinguistics, what I said before. It can be considered a type of psycholinguistics depending on what you do, and it's very much related to psychology. It looks at behaviors. It usually has experiments. So if you like statistics, if you like quantitative research and experiments, that might be something for you. And there's usually going to be a distinction between first language acquisition and second language acquisition. And I could make a whole video about why that's different and what's different about it and what's not different about it. But if you're interested in that, make sure to at least think about which one you're more interested in. And then there's another type of program, and this one is really not very common, but it's the one I'm in currently, and it's called Second Language Studies. And our program is kind of a mixture of all of those that I've just told you about, but it only focuses on second languages. So it focuses on second language teaching, second language acquisition, second language applied linguistics, second language linguistics doesn't really exist too much, but you can analyze the structure of what second language speakers produce. So yeah, my program, Second Language Studies, is not very common, but if you can find something like it, it's a very, very interesting program, and also usually covers most of the topics you're probably interested in. So yeah, this was five programs that you can go into. Hopefully, from what I've told you, you already have a decision, or you already kind of know what you want to do. Make sure to write all of those down, to Google them all, because as I said, you can probably just find programs for all of those and then see where you get accepted, or see where there's professors that you like the most. But there's one more thing that you could study, and this one's also, this one is maybe the choice that people choose the most. And I don't understand why, but you can also just study one language. So if you're interested in French, you can study French. You're probably interested in French literature and linguistics, or you just want to study it because you want to get better at French or Spanish or Japanese. But let me tell you that studying Japanese is not going to make you the best Japanese teacher. Studying French is not going to make you the best French teacher. You can study any language to help out your CV, make sure you're good at that language if it's your second language, or if you want to be a professor of that language, if you want to do research in that language, then you can study that. But other than that, if you want to be a teacher, make sure you get some kind of pedagogy, some kind of language teaching program, or courses from a language teaching program in your repertoire of classes. If you're only interested in analyzing grammar of a certain language, this might be fine. You can also do any other linguistics program and then just specialize in your own language. And yeah, if you're interested in any kind of application of language knowledge, any kind of applied linguistics program is going to give you a good base for studying whichever language you choose. And if you're in your undergrad, you can always choose one language and linguistics, one language and applied linguistics, one language and language teaching or language acquisition. So yeah, what do you guys think? Was this helpful? Let me know if you want to study any of these. Let me know if this video helped you. Let me know if you still have questions. I'd be super happy to answer them, and I really hope you get some good information out of this. If you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button. It really helps our channel and we'd be super grateful for it. Thank you guys so much. See you in another video.